Bilkul Yalong, Cinematic English version High, suitable for a YouTube storytelling video. Crown Princess Diana, the story of the people's princess. There are some people who become famous because of their power. Some become famous because of their wealth. And some become famous because they are born into a royal family. But Princess Diana became something much more than famous. She became loved. Her life was filled with fairy tale moments, enormous public attention, personal struggles, charity work, and heartbreaking tragedy. Yet even decades after her death, people around the world still remember her. This is the story of Diana, Princess of Wales, the woman who became known as the People's Princess. Cherry Blossom Chapter 1. A girl named Diana. Diana Frances Spencer was born on July 1, 1961, in Norfolk, England. She was born into an aristocratic British family and grew up around the world of privilege and tradition. Her family had connections to the British royal family, so royalty was not completely unfamiliar to Diana. But Diana herself was not born a princess. She was simply a young girl growing up with dreams of her own. As a child, Diana was known for being shy but warm-hearted. She enjoyed spending time with children and developed a natural instinct for caring for others. She did not know that one day millions of people would watch her every move. She did not know that photographers would follow her everywhere. And she certainly could not have imagined that her name would eventually become known across almost every corner of the world. Dizzy Chapter 2. The meeting that changed everything. As Diana grew older, her life began moving toward a completely different future. She eventually met Prince Charles, the heir to the British throne. At the time, Charles was one of the most famous men in Britain. Diana was young, elegant, and relatively unknown to the wider public. Their relationship quickly attracted enormous attention. The public became fascinated by the young woman who might become the future queen. Newspapers and television programs followed every development. For Diana, life was changing incredibly quickly. Then came the announcement that would change her life forever. She and Prince Charles were engaged. Suddenly, the young Diana Spencer was preparing to enter the British royal family. Bride with Veil Chapter 3. The Wedding of the Century. On July 29, 1981, Diana and Prince Charles were married at St. Paul's Cathedral in London. The wedding became one of the most famous royal weddings in modern history. Millions of people watched around the world. Diana arrived at the cathedral as a young bride. Her wedding became a global spectacle. The crowds outside were enormous. People celebrated in the streets. Television cameras captured almost every moment. To many people watching from home, it looked like a perfect fairy tale. A young woman had married a prince. She was now officially a princess, but behind the fairy tale photographs was a young woman entering one of the most demanding institutions in the world. Diana was suddenly expected to understand royal traditions, public responsibilities, official events, and constant attention from the media. Her life would never again be private in the way it once had been. Crown Chapter 4. Life as a Princess. Diana quickly became one of the most photographed women in the world. Whenever she appeared in public, cameras followed her. People admired her clothing and style. But something else made Diana particularly fascinating. She had an extraordinary ability to connect with ordinary people. At public events, Diana often seemed genuinely interested in the people standing in front of her. She smiled at children. She spoke with elderly people. She visited patients in hospitals. She met people who were struggling. And she did something that became one of the defining features of her public life: she listened. For Diana, being a princess wasn't only about wearing beautiful clothes or attending royal ceremonies. She wanted to use her position to make a difference. Heavy Black Heart Chapter 5 The People's Princess. Diana's popularity grew enormously. People didn't simply see her as a member of the royal family. They began seeing her as someone who understood ordinary human emotions. During hospital visits, she showed warmth toward patients. During charity events, she spoke to people with compassion. Her approach was sometimes different from the formal style traditionally associated with royalty. She wanted people to feel comfortable around her. This connection became so powerful that she eventually earned a famous nickname, the People's Princess. The title wasn't simply about popularity. It represented the emotional relationship that Diana developed with millions of people. She had become a symbol of compassion. Chapter 6 Using Fame for a Purpose. Diana understood something important about fame. Fame could attract attention. And attention could be used to help people. She therefore became involved with numerous charitable causes. She visited hospitals and organizations supporting vulnerable people. She worked to bring attention to issues that were often uncomfortable or ignored. Her public appearances could turn an overlooked cause into an international conversation. The cameras that once focused mainly on her clothes and royal status were now also capturing the people and causes she wanted the world to notice. Diana's influence had become much larger than the walls of the palace. Man Woman Boy Chapter 7 A Mother. Diana's life also changed when she became a mother. She and Charles had two sons, Prince William and Prince Harry. Diana loved her children deeply. She wanted them to experience a life that was not completely separated from ordinary people. She tried to give them experiences outside the traditional royal environment. For Diana, motherhood was extremely important. Despite the enormous public attention surrounding the family, she wanted her sons to understand compassion, kindness, and responsibility. Her role as a mother became one of the most meaningful parts of her life. Chapter 8 Behind the Smile. But the fairy tale was becoming complicated. Diana's marriage faced serious difficulties. The enormous pressure surrounding their relationship made their personal lives even harder. Their problems became a subject of intense public interest. The media followed the royal couple constantly. Eventually, in 1992, their separation was announced. The world that had watched their wedding now watched the breakdown of their marriage. For Diana, this period was extremely challenging. She was trying to understand who she was while living under constant public attention. Yet she continued her work. She continued meeting people. She continued supporting charitable causes. And she continued trying to build a meaningful life for herself and her children. Broken Heart Chapter 9 A New Chapter. In 1996, Diana and Charles officially divorced. Diana was no longer a member of the royal family in the same way she had been before. But she remained internationally famous. In fact, her humanitarian work became even more prominent. She continued using her public platform to support causes that mattered to her. Her life was changing again. She was becoming more independent. She was discovering what she wanted her future to look like. And millions of people continued to watch her journey. Chapter 10 The Woman Behind the Title. By this stage, Diana had become much more than a royal celebrity. She had become a humanitarian figure. Her influence reached far beyond Britain. She traveled internationally and met people from different backgrounds. She used her visibility to draw attention to humanitarian issues. For many people, Diana represented a different kind of royalty. A royalty that was willing to step closer. A royalty that was willing to listen. A royalty that understood that compassion could sometimes be more powerful than ceremony. Rose Chapter 11 The Final Days. In the summer of 1997, Diana was still one of the world's most recognizable people. She was only 36 years old. Her life was still unfolding. She had plans. She had family. She had a future. But on August 31, 1997, Diana died following a car crash in Paris. The news shocked the world. People struggled to believe that the woman they had watched for so many years was suddenly gone. Crowds gathered in Britain. Flowers were placed outside royal residences. People cried. People remembered her kindness. The woman who had spent years helping others had suddenly become the person the world was mourning. Chapter 12 A World in Mourning. Diana's funeral was watched by millions around the world. People from different countries mourned together. She had been a princess, but her influence had reached far beyond Britain. For many people, she represented kindness, compassion, and humanity. Her death also created a moment of reflection about fame and the enormous pressure placed on public figures. Diana had spent much of her life surrounded by cameras. In death, the world was forced to think about what that level of attention meant. Glowing Star Chapter 13 Her Legacy. Diana's story did not end in 1997. Her legacy continued through her sons, her charitable work, and the causes she supported. Her life became the subject of books, documentaries, films, exhibitions, and countless discussions. But perhaps the most powerful part of her legacy was much simpler. People remembered how she treated other people. They remembered her walking into hospitals. They remembered her speaking to children. They remembered her kindness toward people who were often ignored. They remembered that behind the royal title was a human being. A woman who had fears. A woman who experienced difficulties. A woman who wanted to make a difference. Heavy Black Heart. The lesson of Princess Diana's life. Princess Diana's life was not a perfect fairy tale. It was a real human story. There were beautiful moments. There were difficult moments. There were moments of incredible happiness and moments of enormous sadness. But throughout her life, Diana showed the power of compassion. She demonstrated that influence doesn't have to be used only for personal success. It can be used to help others. Her crown made her famous. But her kindness made her unforgettable. And that may be the greatest lesson from her story: you don't need a crown to make a difference in someone's life. Sometimes, a smile can matter. Sometimes, listening can matter. Sometimes, simply treating another person with dignity can matter. Princess Diana's life lasted only 36 years. But the impact she made during those years continues to be remembered. She may have been born into privilege. She may have become a princess. But the reason people still remember her decades later is much simpler: she made people feel seen. And that is why Princess Diana will forever be remembered as Crown the People's Princess.